Hello, thank you for joining. Midway through August, for me, it's our last day of summer for my kids before they go back to school tomorrow. So I am so excited tonight to get to say, oh, sorry, we can't, it's a school night. And just that's my phrase for the next 9 months because my kids have been up. I don't know about anyone else, but my kids are at the stage where now they stay up late, and I like to be tucked into bed by 9:30, and that hasn't been possible for the last 3 months. So I'm very excited to be back to school. And yeah, we thought this would be a good opportunity to do kind of a Q&A style call. We had some questions. But first, I wanted to talk through the email that I sent out. And you'll notice, for those of you that are local, that we're at our HF Girls Night Out. It was so special and so much fun. And we have photos from there as well. I will probably share, I should probably share a public Dropbox file at some point the next week with all of our event photos so that you can find yourself in those if you were at the event. I think that would be really fun. So stay tuned for that for future. But I wanted to talk through just community and why it's so important when you are moving towards a goal. Finding people like-minded people can be so beneficial. I think there's that saying that you're like the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with most. And so elevating yourself just by making sure you're around people that have the habits and are achieving the things that you want to achieve can be such a game changer when it comes to changing your own habits and like changing the trajectory of where you want to go. So I think, if that's not something that you have already been intentional with, I think it's really something to consider is kind of auditing the people that you spend the most time with and asking yourself, like, do they add value and make me want to be a better person? Do I feel good around them? What are their habits like? How do I want to be like them in different ways? And what am I inspired by? Or are there certain people in your life that are constantly challenging you wanting to be your best version of yourself? And maybe that's not time to necessarily eliminate that person, but maybe give them less time and be around people that help you want to improve and feel good about the goals and habits that you're setting for yourself. So I'm going to share my screen here on this real quick. Okay, here we go. Can everyone see this? Let me make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so just talking about how community can be your secret weapon this season. When you commit to a group, you're less likely to skip that workout or stray from your nutrition plan. Knowing someone is cheering you on or waiting for you at the gym keeps you motivated. I don't know about anyone else, but when I have a training partner, it's just that added layer of accountability, especially I was going to say, especially for like an early morning workout, but honestly, anytime. If I know my motivation is low, I always call a friend to do a workout with me. And I like lifting by myself. I feel like I can get in the zone, I can get things done. But when I was new to lifting, showing up to a class or meeting a friend at the gym, like that was everything for me for just staying committed to my goals. And even now, I might not have so for me, lifting by myself, I know I can get like full intensity. I can stay focused. We're lifting with a friend. Sometimes my intensity can be lower because I'm kind of a chatter, but that slightly lower intensity is better than not doing the workout at all. And sometimes I know I'm just not feeling it today. I feel low energy. I have a lot going on. So I know if I can get in an hour with a friend at maybe a 7 or 8 intensity, that's better than no intensity. So I would rather do that. And my cup is filled by being with like someone that I enjoy being around, with a friend. I get a workout in. It might not be a super focused workout if I were lifting by myself, but it's something over nothing, right? And so I think figuring out what you need to keep that consistency and doing that. So shared wisdom. Everyone brings their own experiences to the table, whether it's a new recipe, a workout tip, or advice on balancing fitness with life demands. A community is a goldmine of practical insights. And I know I've experienced that from being at a CrossFit gym to having, training with different athletes to going to different like educational events to just having friends that have similar passions and interests to the Hungry Fitness team. Um, we all sometimes can have tunnel vision. And so having people in your life, a coach would be a really great even resource or example of that too. Having people that you're surrounded with that know your goals and are willing to be a sounding board for you, or even like open up your perspective of what is possible or what you're accomplishing, or maybe what's getting in your way, can be so beneficial. So just that shared wisdom is invaluable, versus just going about everything on your own. Emotional support, bad day, your community is there to lift you up. I know in the Hungry Fitness groups, like there's a lot of that happens where someone's struggling with something and everyone is so willing to give like strategies that work for them or ideas. And I love to see that, and encouragement too, because if you are there right now, likely someone else has been there, and is on the other side of it or is currently there and can empathize. So I think that's huge. And like being willing to share and be vulnerable can not only help you benefit, but also help others to know that they're not alone. And so I love seeing that in the Hungry Fitness groups. Same with celebrating wins, having other people to cheer you on is really nice. And so I think having that in our community is so special. And then lastly, when people do share their wins, we can all be inspired by that, which is really motivating. So I would love to hear any wins anyone has had on the groups today, if you guys want to share those, and we can all cheer you on, because that's definitely what we're here to do. And I think I was talking to a client about this today, actually, about how she was asking me for like hacks with little ones and getting in, all the things on the nutrition side. And we went back and forth, and I gave her some ideas and suggestions, and she responded with just kind of like, okay, these are good ideas, but also it's just nice to remember that it is hard. And that's just the reality, is sometimes it's hard with little kids to prioritize your nutrition and get in a workout. And there's not really any quick fix. And it's more so about not expecting perfection and being willing to have some compromise, but just knowing like, yeah, what I'm doing is not easy. If it were easy, everybody would do it. Everybody would be healthy and feel great and be fit and accomplish their goals. And it's just not the reality. Most people are just feel terrible and are not doing very well. And so I think remembering when you are struggling, that something really is going to get you farther than you think, and just giving yourself grace. We were talking about just like maybe spending the extra money and buying the pre-chopped vegetables, or when you do cook, make leftovers so that you don't have to prep food twice. And then just giving yourself some grace when things don't go your way. I talked to her about today about having a perfect day meal and a shit hit the fan meal. And just like, we got both of those in our back pocket and they check the boxes. And that's the same goes for a workout. I have my workout written. This is like the plan. This is my perfect workout. But then sometimes you have to scale and do half of it, or the intensity is lower. And so I think just knowing like even a shit hit the fan workout or meal is better than just doing nothing, or just completely letting go of habits. So having some structure is going to help a lot in the grand scheme of things. And then just
That
go,
is something.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that this summer, because I've always been also a person that is like, if I have, sessions that I'm supposed to do in the gym and then I'm away all summer. So usually we're away for 3 months, like we're all over the place. And I'm definitely out of routine. And I've always been one that like, oh, okay, maybe I won't train, or I will do minimal. I will do something probably, but like not have any like structure at all. So this summer I really experimented with like, because we were away for a lot of time. And then I like, inspired by you, Michaela, like there's a something over nothing. And I just made a plan that every other day I'm gonna do something. Like that was like my my goal. I'm going to do something every other, if that's a run or if it's like some body weight movement, if it's yeah, some a little bit more than mobility, but like either like some strength training body or with weights or a run. And I did that like through basically a whole summer. And if it took me 15 minutes or if it took me like 40, it didn't really matter the time. I didn't set a time. I just said that I'm going to do something. And that made it so that I did that. And now in August, I feel a lot better for it because
Absolutely.
that consistency over like June, July, half of August, that has made a difference than if I wouldn't have done that. And I have history to show for that. So yeah, for sure. It
Yeah,
makes
I
a
love
huge
that.
mm,
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're still moving the needle in the direction you
yeah.
want to go. It might not be like huge strides, but
No,
if you didn't do anything and you were just frustrated because you couldn't be perfect, then you would be moving it in the wrong direction, right?
exactly.
So
Yeah.
I think just remembering that too, like there's times and there's seasons where we can make big strides with our health and fitness goals. And there's other times that it's really easy to go backwards 10 steps. In those times, that's where it matters the most to
Yeah.
just
Keep
choose
baseline.
something over nothing. So even if that needle is inching forward, it's at least moving in the right direction. And you likely feel so much better. Like maybe you're
Yeah.
not losing that 10 pounds, but your biofeedback and like energy and libido and mood, digestion, all of those things are in a good place. And
It's
that's
probably going to be like a more positive motivation to get when you get back into routine. It's not going to be that, oh, I need to get back to things and like kind of in desperation getting back to things and like being kind of, now you're like, you have kept the baseline. So now the motivation is kind of built of on something more positive. Like, I think that's more realistic at least, so that because you know that you haven't lost, you've just kept,
you're just
and
taking that next step
yeah.
up versus like climbing out of the hole.
Yeah, yeah,
I kind of look at it too, like even just a little bit is keeping you in the habit. So
yeah,
Hmm.
then
exactly.
it's keeping you in the habit of getting to the gym and it's keeping you in the habit of just moving your body. And
Yeah.
so
It's
then when it
easier
comes
to
back
make,
time to circle through it again, you haven't completely lost that habit. You still kind of maintained a level of that habit.
Yeah, it's
and
just
I
scaled
feel,
down. For
Yeah.
those of us that lift, like that's very intuitive, right? Maybe I back squat with a barbell and 150 pounds on it, and then maybe I get pregnant and that becomes like some dumbbells that I'm holding, or maybe I get injured and it becomes just an air squat. Like we can just scale down movements really easily. Same goes for nutrition. Same goes for just any other habit. Like maybe I like an hour walk a day. Okay, well, can I do 20 minutes this week? 15? At least I'm still checking that box of walking. And so I think the more quickly you can do that with all of your habits, the more likely you're going to achieve your goals.
and I think also with movement, the more consistent you're able to be with movement, usually, maybe not for everyone, but usually you're gonna also keep a better track on what you're eating because usually those two things go hand in hand.
It's true.
I think a lot can relate to that at least. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So kind of, we're just kind of chatting. It's a little bit more casual call today, but talking through we got some questions and I want to answer those. One of them is, do you do anything different or specific to support each of the cycles of your menstrual cycle, from nutrition, exercise, rest, etc.? So some things that I do that have been really beneficial for me in regards to my menstrual cycle, I would say the biggest thing I've noticed a huge difference with from a supplementation side of things would be magnesium glycinate. I take 500 milligrams every single evening, and that helps with sleep for me. But I also notice my PMS symptoms are way less, my cramps are way less. Just really all of my like period symptoms are way less when I regularly supplement with magnesium glycinate. And it's like very soothing for your nervous system, which in turn helps with symptoms in my menstrual cycle. So that would be my kind of holy grail for me personally. And most people are depleted of magnesium. One thing to keep in mind when you are supplementing with magnesium, well, there's two things I would say when purchasing magnesium glycinate. most often you'll see magnesium listed on a bottle, and when you turn it around to the ingredients, it's magnesium citrate or magnesium oxide. Those are going to be beneficial for digestion, but not for your nervous system. So making sure it says magnesium glycinate or magnesium bisglycinate, or I'm trying to think of other terms that are common. I chelated magnesium, if you look at it, it should still say magnesium glycinate on the back. And then second, so checking that. And then second would be the serving size. A lot of times bottles you'll need to take like 5 pills to get 500 milligrams. I like to do it all in one. I don't want to take 5 pills every night. So I've just found a magnesium glycinate on Amazon that is just 1 pill. And that's really nice. I take that with my fish oil every night. And I think I was just going to look and see what the brand is called so I could tell you guys. Let's see. I think all of our team takes the same one for the most part. It's magnesium glycinate. The one I've been using is Deal Supplement. It's an, I guess it's a green and white bottle. I will send the link on the chat right now so you have it. And I'll also send it, I can send it in the groups, but I just sent that on the chat. I love that one. It's magnesium glycinate. It is 500 milligrams. So super easy. And then another one that's important to me that I would say, really, these are the only 2 supplements besides creatine that I take. Another thing that has helped me is eating fatty fish regularly and supplementing with fish oil helps just lower inflammation across the board. And I think that contributes to like a more symptomless menstrual cycle for me when inflammation is lowered. So those are kind of 2 things I do on the supplement side. On the nutrition, rest, and exercise side, this one's really hard because we were talking about this as a team. I think a lot of times women just want like, here's a general guideline for every week of your menstrual cycle, what to eat, how to train, how to rest. And you see that all over the internet. And I think it's really misleading. I think because there really can't be a general guideline because we're all really different. And so one person might have 0 symptoms other than 2 or 3 days of bleeding, where another person might feel like they can't even get out of bed and they have severe cramps and they're nauseous. And so I think doing what you can to improve your menstrual cycle by eating nutrient dense foods, by supplementing where you might need to supplement, by getting like optimizing your circadian rhythm, that's going to be really beneficial. Getting a lot of sunlight, that's going to help regulate hormones. And that's going to also help with like soothing nervous system, cortisol, melatonin production. So getting outside, getting sunlight, doing what you can to mitigate blue light, especially in the evenings. And then also resting when is appropriate. I know if I'm eating like garbage and I'm not getting a lot of rest, when my period hits, it hits hard. If I'm taking care of myself and getting nutrient dense foods, like making sure I'm having a well-rounded diet, I'm getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night, that has a huge impact on how I feel in my luteal phase. And so I think doing what you can to optimize there from a habit standpoint for general health is most often going to help how you feel during your luteal phase and into that bleed. So keeping that in mind, and then knowing from there, it's really individual. Is your first day like really, really heavy bleeding? Okay. In that case, if I know day 1 of my period is going to be on Thursday, I might rearrange my week with my workouts, having that be maybe an upper body day or maybe a rest day. So I'm not feeling like as stressed lifting, or I probably wouldn't go on a long run that day if I know I'm going to be bleeding really heavily. I might have cramps and that's not going to be great. So what I do is just kind of rearrange my week based on that. And then I might also know, all right, I'm going to be a little bit tired those 2 days before my period and the day of my period. So for me, I'm okay with that. I still will train tired, but I will just change and adjust my expectations to, I might not be lifting a 10 out of 10. I might need to lift more like a 7 or 8 on the exertion. I might need to leave 2 reps in the tank, or I just might I might feel like I'm lifting a 10 out of 10, but I'm lifting lighter than last week because it's way harder this week because I'm tired. And I will just change my expectations and be okay with that. And then, um, and then on that side of things too, knowing I'm going to be tired, I will prioritize sleep. I might not do my 6 a.m. workout. I might do it at 9 instead those 2 days and just kind of adjust as needed. So that's the main thing. Is like maybe your second week of your luteal, so kind of right before your cycle starts, getting more rest. I really like to prioritize more fiber and protein that week, knowing that I'm gonna have elevated hunger. So doing what I can to just make sure I get more fibrous food, make sure I get more vegetables, make sure I really prioritize protein and water so that I'm not ravenous and super hungry. And then adjusting my schedule as needed. Do you guys have anything else to add to that?
I mean, really just, it's hard because everybody's so different. I kind of reference with my 17-year-old. She'll come home and say, well, so and so is doing this X, Y, and Z before their cycle. This is why I'm doing this. And I'm like, but do you have those symptoms? Like, does it, when you're training? Well, no, but this is what she does. And so it's kind of hard. I'm like, well, that's probably not something that you need to do then. But so it's so individualized. And I think it's just 90% of the time we don't realize our cycle symptoms, I don't want to say are so bad, but once we start taking care of other things, just like you mentioned, we're like, wow, our cycle really was at this point where it was sucked. And then I didn't realize it can feel so much better. So just taking care of the basics in general will help with symptoms overall.
Yeah, and I think too, like step one is seeing how you feel throughout each phase of your cycle, like paying attention. How do I feel in my follicular phase? How do I feel in my luteal phase? How do I feel that first week, of bleeding? And paying attention to that. Sorry, guys. Yay for last day of summer. Paying attention to that and adjusting based off of your individualized needs, and also knowing, like, I might have a really symptomless cycle in September and November might be terrible. And it's just like if you're getting sick. If I notice I'm starting to get sick, I will just make adjustments. So your cycle is going to be the same. Be willing to adjust expectations, maybe adjust rest, maybe take a rest day if you need it. I'm not saying to just train through all the time either. Sometimes it's just like, you know what? I planned on working out today. I feel like garbage. I'm tired. I'm just going to go for a walk. And so I think when you are consistently doing something over nothing, it's not that big of a deal if you have to adjust or miss a workout here or there, because that's a part of who you are. But yeah, adjusting your expectations as needed, and knowing that your lifts might be affected, but you can also have a PR on your heavy day of your cycle too. I have had many days as a competitive athlete where I have had my heavy day of my period and I've had to run a half marathon, or I've had to compete in conference championships for track or whatever it is. And it hasn't, studies actually show that it doesn't impact your performance. But I think it really comes down to symptoms. Like, what are your symptoms, and adjusting based off of those. So, and know that it's going to be a little bit different for everybody. And there's no like right or wrong way to do it. So general recommendations are a little bit hard for me because of that. Yeah. So if anyone has more questions on that, we have done previous Zoom calls on different like strategies and tools as well. And I will link those on the team Zoom. I'll link those today in the group chat. So you can just go through and look at our historical kind of history of calls. And there's a few on different menstrual cycles if you want to look more into that too. And then the next question was, the minute I get into maintenance, I will eat and snack on things that I'm not tracking, and throughout the week it adds up. When I'm in a deficit and tracking, I will stick to just one cookie. But when I'm trying to mindfully eat in maintenance, I will eat 3 to 4. It's like I feel better in restriction. I feel like I can't trust myself. This one's really good. And I think like the thing that we need to discuss is the last sentence. I feel like I can't trust myself, right? That's huge. And I think addressing that is going to be where you're going to find the solution. And like, what does it mean for me to trust myself? If I decide I'm going to have 2 cookies, then why am I having 3 or 4? Like, what's going on here? Is it a matter of that self-soothing? Is it a matter of wanting to have a quick dopamine hit? And maybe thinking of alternatives, like what are some more slow dopamine drip options that I could have instead of sitting down and eating cookies? Like, could I go for a walk? Why in restriction am I able to do, like, stick to my commitments, but when I'm in maintenance, I'm not? I think this is something that we work on with clients regularly, and it's kind of I don't necessarily have a quick answer for it because it's a lot of introspection, I think, is where you come to the realization of like what the best strategy is or solution for you. Henrietta, do you want to add to that?
Yeah. Personally, when I have been tracking and I stop tracking, what I notice is very likely my meals will get smaller. I will eat less in my meals.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm noticing then is that I'm more likely to go and grab for snacks. Like that's just the simplest, um, or that's the first thing that I would look at with the beyond like talking about relationship with food, but just
Yeah,
that
just like a
practical thing,
practical.
like just a
Mm-hmm.
practical thing. How does your behavior beyond the cookies or just that, how does your meal behavior change when you stop tracking? That's the first thing that I would look at. Do you recognize yourself in that, as I said, now that you start to eat less smaller meals? In that case, that's the first thing that I would change. I would go back to just eating bigger meals. I would do that anyways. Like I would just eat bigger meals and just see where that takes you. Will the snacking, are you still feeling like eating 4 cookies? Or did that diminish just by you actually eating bigger meals? And then, of course, a protein focus and veggie fiber, that we always talk about.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point because a lot of times when we're in a calorie deficit, like we have to be on it. We have to be planning out our meals. We have to make sure that they have plenty of volume and they are filling because we are
This video
essentially
will
doing
walk you through the
controlled,
process.
we're essentially doing controlled starvation, right? Like we are, that's what we're doing in a calorie deficit is we're taking in less than we are outputting, and that's challenging. So we really want to strategize around that, where once you move to maintenance, you're like, hunger is not really an issue anymore. I can just kind of fly by the seat of my pants and make my meals as I go. I don't need to plan them out or think about them or make sure they're very filling. You might kind of move to just like a flexible mindset, which can be great. We have more of a range in maintenance of like where we can maintain, but I think sometimes we just go to way too flexible. So what Henrietta said, making sure your meals still have structure will probably eliminate some of that like snacking, that quick snacking. Because I think I've seen this with most women, and I'm this way too. If I'm not prioritizing my nutrition, I will just not eat breakfast in the morning. I'll kind of just live off of caffeine. And like I'll get everything done that needs to be done in the day, right? It's really easy to just go into like mom mode, house mode, work mode,
Yeah.
and
6 hours
caffeine.
later.
Screw it. Yeah, 6 hours will go by. And also, like, I'm not that hungry. So 6 hours will go by and I won't have eaten. Then I might eat my first meal at noon, between noon and 2. Really, maybe I've had a couple bites, but I don't have a significant meal until then. Well, now I'm behind on a lot of things from a nutrient standpoint. So I'm hungry. My body's finally realizing how hungry I am. So that's when you overeat between 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. is even just that little thing. Like in a deficit, you wake up hungry. So you are having a good meal in the morning. And then you're able to make smart choices later in the day, where if you're not really in a deficit, you might not be waking up hungry. And it might be easy to just forget about breakfast and prioritize other things. but that still catches up to you at some point, and it
Mm.
can be hard to resist. And then if you have temptations out in front of you that are like just in general foods that are very easy to overeat, then
Yeah,
it's
and
have that self-control.
thinking the like if you talk looking at it as an environmental thing with at nighttime you might be like watching a show, it's more likely that you will grab, or maybe that this is just me, maybe I'm wrong, but like this is how I look at it at least. Like it's for me at least, it's more likely that I will grab a snack that would be like cookies, candy, something like that at night, but I'm tucked up in the sofa with some candle lights and something on, a show to watch. That makes more sense to me than having cookies and candy or whatever like in the 11 a.m. So I think if you're saving, or if that is the scenario that you're eating later and then now you're kind of way behind, that is maybe a little easier also to make those decisions of snacking, because it's more an environmental thing of, time of day and what you're doing at that time after kind of being running around and being busy all day.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps,
I
maybe
think
not.
I think too, a lot of times I'll just say this kind of lastly, if you are in a calorie deficit, you're tracking your food, you're paying attention to those things, and then you move to maintenance and maybe you aren't tracking your food for quite long enough in maintenance. I think it's important to track your food when you're coming out of a deficit or coming out of a surplus back to maintenance, to spend 2 to 4 weeks tracking your intake at maintenance and paying attention, like, okay, what do my meals need to look like throughout the day? And what does that feel like? What does that visually look like? I'm tracking my food and making sure I'm getting enough protein and calories. And is that 3 meals per day, or is it 4 meals per day, or is it 3 meals and a snack? And just getting that template in your mind of what's the right amount of food for you at maintenance with hitting your protein goal and, paying attention to fiber. And then once you have that template in mind, then you can move to a more intuitive approach, because all right, I need to still get in 30 to 50 grams of protein with my breakfast. It's about this size. I eat it about this time of day. And then I have lunch. It's about this size, these kind of general like rule of thumbs. And then if you do that, you'll have some kind of, you'll lay that groundwork and you'll have some ground rules for that day and the structure of that day. And you can be more intuitive with choices, but I only have room for 2 cookies with dinner if that's what I want to have. Like, I've logged that at maintenance. I know that works for me. I'm gonna do that now a little bit more intuitively. But I think a lot of times we come off of a calorie deficit feeling very restricted and deprived, and we're like, yes, we're in maintenance, and it kind of turns into a free-for-all. And so taking the time to kind of treat maintenance as you treated a calorie deficit and making sure you're checking all the boxes for what you need, and then transitioning into a more intuitive approach from there can be really helpful too, because you have that template and you know what that looks like and feels like as well.
It's a great idea.
So hopefully that helps. We had some other questions on Instagram today. I had a lot of questions on there and I was going to answer some of them on here, but we covered that in just this call. So I will answer more questions on Instagram stories probably today and tomorrow. So if you were one that asked those, just know I will do that. And otherwise, we're excited for another week. It's week 3 of HF Physique. So hopefully everyone's getting into a good groove there. We're just finishing up the fall cycle. Very excited about the next phase for that. And we would love to hear your wins on the groups today. So let us know so we can celebrate you. Hope everyone has a great August. And if you're back to school, good luck with the transition as well. Thanks for joining.
Thanks.